Okay, Switzerland-Norway at the Women's Euros. The Swiss, who are the hosts, really gave this a good crack. The first half they were brilliant. They should have been 2-0 up at half-time. The final score is 2-1 to Norway. It is a crazy second half. There's 4 minutes where Norway get both their goals. Then there's the two penalty shouts. One is given by VAR. One is actually initially given by the referee and then is overturned by VAR. The Norwegians, while they've won the game, they perform like a team of individuals, and they get a bit of luck with the own goal. But defensively, they look very suspect. The Swiss goal by Ryson, they're just so passive. They're just sitting back, allowing the Swiss players time and space to make runs. No pressure on the player in possession, which leads to Ryson's goal. She crosses the ball in. There's a bit of a ping pong, and then she follows up, and then snapshot scores the opening goal in 28 minutes. Reuteler hit the bar a few minutes before, and again that very passive standoff defence was something I noticed at the last Euros with Norway, where they were very, very passive defensively, very, very passive. There was no aggression in their defensive systems. And when it comes to the 50-50s and building possession, there was a lack of intensity by the Norwegians. Now, yes, we had water breaks in both the first half and the second half because we hit the temperature threshold. The heat wave that we've been experiencing here in Europe is a lot hotter on the continent in Central Europe, where Switzerland is. So water breaks in this game, which we didn't see in the first game because the first game was played for higher altitude in Thun. This game was played at Basel, which is a slightly lower altitude. That heat has been building throughout the day. Obviously, for a 9 p.m. kickoff, the fact that they're having water breaks in the evening at 9:10, about 9:30 in the evening Swiss time, that shows you how hot it has actually been. Now, it's 1-0 at half time to the Swiss. They could have been 2 or 3. Reuteler, if that goes in, with the and then I think it completely changes the game. I think the Swiss dominated the first half. They were playing as a team. They were moving the ball quicker. I think they obviously adapted to the hot, humid conditions better than the Norwegian team. The second half, until Norway get a corner, Norway are showing nothing. Again, it is the Swiss still being on top, and the Norwegian defence sitting off Swiss players in possession. They're allowing them to dictate their passes, the movement, and they're being very, very passive, very, very, I wouldn't say nervy, but just very They're just giving too much space away. They're not pressing very well. But they do there's a sloppy corner given away off a poor back pass by the Swiss, and Hegerberg scores the header. Now, yeah, you could argue the keeper should do a bit better, but the Swiss defence has switched off there to allow a free header on 54 minutes. And that changes the momentum because then 4 minutes later, Steyerli, I think that's how you pronounce her name, puts the ball in her own net, and the Swiss have switched off. They've lost control of the game. Their game management has shut down, and the Norwegians are using that individual quality that they have to take the lead. Now, this is a crazy 4 minutes. The Swiss seem to have imploded. Then there's the penalty. Now, Reuteler's had a very, very good game, and that is a handball in the box. Completely gets that wrong. I don't know why there had to be a VAR check for that, but we have a VAR check. And Hegerberg misses the penalty. From the resulting goal kick, the Swiss go down the other end. It's route 1, flick on, penalty shout, referee gives the penalty. VAR overturns the penalty. Now, the contact's minimal. It's because the player is offside. Now, this is where I do think that the offside rule needs amending. Because offside by that much? Literally by about that much. Even if the Swiss player's onside, she physically wins the aerial battle with the Norwegian defender. So I can't see, 4 inches. This is half a boot is what we're talking about here. maybe even less than that, maybe, a few centimetres at most. Is that really an advantage to the attacker when the defender has been physically out-muscled and the attacker has read the flight of the ball better? Because it's a through ball. It's a incoming ball high. I do think we need to look at the offside rule, because for me both players' bodies are in line with each other. I understand that's the wording of the law of the game at the moment, of the offside law at the moment, but I think common sense needs to apply a little bit. Whether it was a penalty or not, VAR was going to check that anyway. Very minimal contact, but the momentum, that this was a crazy second half, because until Norway scored their first goal, they're not in the game. Then they're 2-1 up, because the Swiss seem to have a bit of a mid first half meltdown. Then we have both penalty shouts. The Norwegians miss one, the Swiss one gets overturned because of that offside, and I do think a lot of fans over recent years, since VAR has been brought in since 2018, have been highly critical of the wording and the interpretation of offside, because they have altered the wording, which has altered the interpretation. Now, I actually do have a rule book from 1992 somewhere in my collection of books, and it used to be that you had to have clear space between the attacker and defender. There had to be clear, visible space in order for it to be offside. And yet, decisions were made incorrectly by officials, and offsides. If you were to replay a lot of goals, a lot of those goals would be chalked off by today's standard. But I do think the momentum swings again. You could argue the Swiss still looked very threatening, as towards the end. They looked better in possession, but they looked tired by the end. I think they didn't pace themselves in very hot, humid conditions in Basel. And maybe a little bit of inexperience there. There's a lot of young players in this Swiss setup. So their game management went a little bit awry for 4 minutes. They switched off from a corner, and then the own goal. I mean, the defender it's a dangerous ball across the box, and that draws defenders into making attempted clearances like this. I think if the defender leaves it, the keeper would pick up the ball, and the Swiss go down the other end and have an attack. But it's a split second decision. She gets the timing on it wrong, trying to do like a sliding block, and she diverts it into her own net. What I took out of this was the Swiss were very exciting to watch. They've got a good system. They play with a good energy. I just think they need to pace themselves a little bit better and try and level out that intensity throughout the game. The Norwegians, though, while they get the win, it's not convincing. Very similar to their win against Northern Ireland in the last Euros. That was their only high point of the last Euros. They have had issues in scoring. And when they don't score, they tend to lose. So the fact they got that equaliser, you sort of think here, well, this is if Norway score, they tend to win. If they don't score, they tend to lose. Norway got lucky. They did play like a team of individuals. I think Finland, would be a good challenge for both these sides. I think Iceland were very poor as well. So Iceland-Norway takes on a new kind of level of importance with how both Iceland and Norway played in these two games. I think the Swiss can take a lot out of this game. They will learn a lot of lessons. It's disappointing that as the host nation they didn't win their opening game. That always tends to help with the tournament when the hosts do well in their opening fixture. But the Swiss have shown they've got a lot about them. They have some good interplay, some good combinations. They're fun, they're exciting, they play at a high pace. They are pretty good defensively. I think it was just a defensive lapse from a corner, and then they got a bit flustered, bit of inexperience there against a side whose head-to-head record is not great. I think the Swiss will challenge the Finns and the Icelandic team. Norway needs to play a lot better if they're to progress far. This is actually a very tight group. I mean, look, 3 goals scored in 2 games, but the winning margin is just a goal in both games. So I think overall, I think the Finns look the best so far out of Group A, just on this very brief sample size. So we'll see how this group evolves over the tournament, over the next couple of games, and we'll see who ends up getting out of the group. I think the Finns are actually in pole position. They look very good defensively, apart from the odd set piece. In possession, they were very, very controlled, and they kept up that consistency throughout their game. They were controlled throughout the game. The Swiss, very exciting team, need to get their game management better. Iceland were poor, Norway were poor, yet somehow get a win. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the game in the comment section below, and I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.